Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. This past weekend looked quiet, but the atmosphere in Washington, D.C. was still tense. Even though there are already over 20,000 National Guard troops gathered in D.C., Biden and Harris are still nervous about the inauguration. First, I'd like to talk about some unusual observations that came up over the weekend. On Friday, the Washington Post reported a story about Mike Lindau, also known as the MyPillow guy. Lindau is the CEO of MyPillow. He is a supporter and a personal acquaintance of President Trump, and had the opportunity of visiting the president in person. Last Friday afternoon, he was seen entering the West Wing of the White House. Washington Post photographer took a photo of him holding a document. After zooming in on the document, it revealed sensitive information. The document mentioned the words "Save the Constitution," "martial law," "foreign interference," and "move Kash Patel to CIA acting." This made the leftist media on edge for quite a while. When interviewed by the Epoch Times, Lindau's explanation confirmed that the left was just jumping to conclusions. He said, quote, "It wasn't an official thing. It was from a lawyer who said it was a suggestion for him. That's what I get for trying to be a nice guy and deliver something for someone." He did not disclose the name of this lawyer. Lindau said that during the 5 to 10 minute meeting in the Oval Office, President Trump read the document and returned it to him. The keywords in the document were not news to us. For example, General Flynn and Attorney Lin Wood have already publicly suggested the use of martial law. If President Trump were indeed considering martial law, he would not have waited for so long. I think the most important topic is actually the suggestion for Kash Patel to join the CIA. Why is this important? On the following day, January 16th, Axios published an exclusive report claiming that CIA Director Gina Haspel had opposed Patel's appointment as her deputy and threatened to resign. The report painted a false picture of how Haspel rightfully appealed against President Trump's decision. He eventually had to retract in order to appease Haspel's anger. Of course, many people questioned the credibility of this report, but I don't think it's important whether this report is true or not. What's more important is the unusual reaction from the left after this report came out. It may suggest that this is an area that is sensitive to them. Over the weekend, more news came out that was closely related to the U.S. intelligence community. On Saturday night, Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller suddenly issued an order appointing Michael Ellis as the Chief Legal Officer or General Counsel at the National Security Agency, NSA. The NSA is responsible for collecting and analyzing foreign and domestic communication data and belongs to the U.S. Department of Defense. This seemed unimpressive, but it has become the focus for many media platforms. The Democratic Party has also publicly expressed its opposition. Why? Let's first talk about Michael Ellis. The sensitivity regarding Ellis is mainly reflected in two aspects. First, he is a young and energetic figure among the conservatives and a strong supporter of President Trump. Before joining the Trump administration, Ellis served as chief counsel to California Congressman Devin Nunes and as a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Since then, Ellis has also served as deputy counsel to the National Security Council. Beginning March 2020, Ellis has served as the senior director of the National Security Council's Intelligence Division. As you can see from his career, Ellis is no stranger to the intelligence community. He has also attracted widespread public attention because he refused to testify in the House of Representatives in 2019 against the impeachment of President Trump. On the other hand, Alice has close ties to Ezra Cohen, who is acting under Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. Both of them worked with President Trump's ally, Representative Devin Nunes, and fought together to stop the first impeachment of President Trump. Cohen was brought into the National Security Council by General Flynn. Cohen is the person who discovered and reported that President Trump's campaign was under illegal surveillance by Obama. Furthermore, Cohen was previously the acting Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and the Low-Intensity Conflict. The pattern is clear. Alice has assumed an important position at largest U.S. intelligence agency. This is hard for the Biden administration to dismiss. His most important ally is in charge of covert military operations at the Defense Department. If you add in the aforementioned Kash Patel, who was suggested as a replacement for Haspel at the CIA, you would have a strong chain of command within the intelligence community. There is another interpretation to the appointment of Alice in NSA. The left believe that Trump is placing an irrevocable loyalist in the largest intelligence agency to maintain his influence after leaving office. This strategy is known as borrowing in the government. Speaker Nancy Pelosi is very nervous of Alice's appointment. On January 18th, she released a letter she wrote the day before to Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller. In the letter, Pelosi demanded Miller to halt the appointment because Alice is a Trump loyalist and unqualified. Pelosi only stressed that the NSA General Counsel is a highly sensitive position without elaborating on why. Interestingly, she also mentioned the term borrow and claimed that the appointment would be a disturbing disregard for our national security. Isn't this unusual? As we all know, Pelosi previously spoke with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, attempting to solicit him to disobey a potential nuclear strike order from President Trump. Now she is interfering directly with an appointment in the Department of Defense. They both interfere with executive power. Pelosi is rushing to stop the appointment, even at the risk of being criticized again for overstepping her authority. I am not a legal expert, but this means that in Pelosi's eyes, this appointment is as important as stopping the military from following President Trump's orders. On the other hand, if the appointment cannot be revoked, we can reasonably infer that Alice may do a lot of unfavorable things for the left in this position. This is why the left is nervous and opposed so strongly. Of course, whatever the interpretation, a lot of attention has been put on the unusual changes in the intelligence community. In addition, there have been a few more interesting developments. On January 17th, in a letter transmitted to Congress, the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, asserted that China had interfered in the 2020 presidential election. Citing a report by Barry Zuloff, an analyst for the intelligence community, Ratcliffe said that some analysts were reluctant to describe China's actions as election interference because the analysts disagreed with the policies of President Trump. He also claimed that the intelligence was suppressed by management at the CIA. Ratcliffe wrote that, quote, based on all available sources of intelligence, with definitions consistently applied and reached independent of political considerations or undue pressure that the People's Republic of China sought to influence the 2020 U.S. federal elections. The report by Zuloff was sent to Congress on January 7th alongside an assessment on interference in the 2020 election. But as we can see, the media has chosen to ignore this important report on foreign interference. Instead, they focused on covering the impeachment and the Capitol riots. Again, this confirms that many branches of the American government have been infiltrated by the left. There is a probability that the American politics will become a totalitarian system in the future. Let's discuss the upcoming inauguration on January 20th. The most notable news on the inauguration is regarding Kamala Harris. She finally submitted her letter of resignation to California Governor Gavin Newsom. Effective January 18, 2021 at 12 p.m., she resigns as Senator for the state of California. Harris didn't officially accept the position of Vice President-elect until 2 days before the inauguration. This is another record, after becoming the first female vice president in U.S. history. Why didn't she resign until the 18th? The only reason is that she was not sure if she could actually become the vice president. Even though she resigned on January 18th, it doesn't necessarily mean she has gained confidence. It's more like she couldn't put it off any longer. Because the inauguration rehearsal is happening on January 18th, she cannot sit in the vice president's seat as a senator. If it were not for this rehearsal, she may have waited until 12 noon on January 20th to resign from the Senate. This delay reflects the deep insecurity within Biden's team. This is reflected from the unprecedented inauguration security as well. We all know that there are now more U.S. troops deployed in Washington, D.C. than in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. Many people joked that America is more concerned with maintaining internal stability than resisting external threats. In spite of all this, Biden's team still seems to be insecure. On January 17th, U.S. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy said in an interview with the AP that the U.S. Army is working with the Secret Service to determine which service members supporting the National Special Security event for the inauguration require additional background screening. The FBI has been investigating 25,000 members of the National Guard. Any soldier who believes that there was election fraud will be subject to disciplinary action and removed from the Capitol. This still doesn't reassure the Biden administration, and they are demanding that all soldiers' ammunition be confiscated in order to prevent an assassination attempt. When I saw this news, the term investigating reminded me of the process of political vetting in Communist China. The term political vetting has a long history in Communist China and has existed even before the Chinese Communist Party took power in China. It was especially after 1949 when the CCP officially began its totalitarian rule over China. Every Chinese person had a taste of what political vetting was like. During the time periods where Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping were in power, without passing a political vetting, it was very hard to do anything. Whether it was to join the party, to enlist in the military, or even go to study. Without passing it, no matter how talented you were, you would be struggling just to survive. Until now, although the economic and industrial improvements have made people in China feel as though living conditions have improved, the politics behind all of it have not changed. So who decides the criteria for passing? That's up to the people in power, and they can modify it however they wish in order to suit their needs. In the US, the left uses anti-discrimination as a reason to start mass political movements. By doing so, they gain a lot of political power. Unlike China, they use different ideals to manipulate the masses and discriminate against those who oppose them. The censorship we now see from big tech against President Trump and his supporters is similar to the political vetting in China. If people go against these political ideas, they might be inhibited from applying for loans, getting on a plane, or maybe even attending college. We are not that far from the above scenario, as some of its facets can already be seen here in the United States. As an example, on January 13th, the mayor of New York City terminated business contracts with the Trump Organization. The contract is worth about $17 million a year. The Washington Examiner reported, the former chief security officer of Facebook suggested conservative news outlets, One American News and Newsmax, be deplatformed following the siege of the Capitol and the proliferation of radical views online. What he is suggesting already happened to Parler, whose platform was shut down. The conservative voices on the platform have been completely silenced. Looking into the future, it seems the left will continue to filter out those with different opinions. The CCP has been following the strategy of maintaining stability at all costs for years. The fundamental issue is that the CCP fears losing their political legitimacy. We are starting to see this strategy being implemented by the left in America. It makes us realize that the radical left is the same anywhere in the world. Next, I want to talk about First Lady Melania. On January 18th, she delivered a nearly 7-minute speech thanking the Americans from all walks of life for their support over the past 4 years. She expressed her gratitude for the opportunity to represent the United States as First Lady for the past 4 years. In particular, the First Lady mentioned about the COVID-19 that the world confronts and thanked all frontline workers. She encouraged the parents to teach their children, quote, about the courageous and the selfless heroes who worked and sacrificed to make this country the land of free. She also specifically emphasized, quote, violence is never the answer and will never be justified. Here, I want to thank President Trump and his family again for their tremendous contributions to Americans. Lastly, we would like to remind our friends again that our platform may be restricted on social media. Click the link in the description below to register your email. In case of any disruptions, we will email you our latest updates. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.